Hello and welcome back to Sacred Healing and Enchantment. It has been quite a while since I uploaded a podcast, and I'm going to share all of the reasons why. This is a special life update episode and where I've been for the first part of 2025. I'm really excited to share the news that I'm pregnant and to share some of this experience of this pregnancy and where I'm at in my motherhood journey and the relationship that I have with my business, self-care, self-love, healing, spirituality as a result of being pregnant and really entering this new stage of motherhood. So if you're interested, stay tuned because I'm really excited to share all of this with you. I'm going to share the good, the bad, and the TMI. So let's dive in. So I am at the time of recording this episode, just about 18 weeks pregnant, which is crazy because I felt like the first trimester went by so slow. And around week 13, 14, like the last month has gone by incredibly fast. But the reason why the first trimester was so slow is because I was so sick. If you don't know the condition hyperemesis, that's a condition that's extreme nausea and all of the things that come along with not being able to keep food down, like dehydration and all of that, like water tasted horrible to me, like food aversions. It was basically like having the stomach flu for 7 weeks. And I'll get into a little bit of that, though I want to be sensitive to not like sharing gruesome details, but you can imagine. I'll go back to the conception because it's actually really one of the most magical experiences of my life. So my husband and I decided that we wanted to get pregnant, and my son, who was born in 2021, is 3.5. He'll be 4 by the time this baby arrives. Baby's due October of 2025, and we knew we wanted to space our kids out to a point where, my son Leo would really be able to understand what was going on. And I felt like, especially because I was still nursing Leo in September. We did a ceremony to end nursing right after his 3rd birthday, which was really beautiful. If you're a nursing mom and you want to do a ceremony, there's a really beautiful book called Booby Moon, and we sent milk back to the moon, which he fully got. And it was just, we did the ceremony and that was it. It was really sweet. And we still talk about milk and he still remembers, but and he's excited for the moon to send milk back to me for for the new baby. So he really gets it. And because I was so sick, he was really understanding and wanting to help take care of me, and I think it just adds a lot of relief for me, so I'm not feeling as guilty with my energy not having been great and not feeling good, for him to really just have that awareness and understanding and to not feel abandoned. So the spacing has been awesome. So he's 3.5 now. So we decided that we would get pregnant in the new year, and he was born in September. My son was, and I loved the timeline of that pregnancy. I was also really sick in the first trimester with Leo, though I was sicker in this pregnancy, but I loved the timeline of having the winter as hibernation with the first trimester feeling so icky, so gross, and not really missing out on the best part of the year. I live in southern Maine, and winter is so long here that we really soak up the warm weather when it's here. And so I just didn't want to miss out on that by being sick. And so we were like, it would be amazing if we could time it where I was sick during the last part of winter and then feeling better in the second trimester with spring. And that's what happened. So my husband and I are super lucky and compatible, I suppose. We've gotten pregnant both times without really even trying. Like it was like one and done. and I was obviously tracking my cycle. So leading up to conceiving this baby that I'm currently growing, I was doing LH test strips to get really clear on my ovulation, and I was doing that for many months. And we use cycle syncing and ovulation tracking to prevent pregnancy. So I was already really in tune with my body, and that's been really effective for us. Even like, it's amazing to me how effective it is because we're clearly really fertile. So it's incredible when you're in tune with your body and you're educated about the cycle and what the different hormones are doing. It's incredible how much control we actually have over conception. Without, and this is, I was on birth control in my early 20s, like, so many were and are, but it's incredible that we have the option to do it just really naturally from being in tune and aware of our bodies. And I feel so blessed. So I was already really aware, and it just so happened that I was going to be ovulating around my birthday. And my parents actually conceived me intentionally as a girl. Like, they wanted a winter girl. My birthday's in January. And so they were like, there's a lot of boys in my family. And so they're like, we want a winter girl. And there's a method called the Shettles method, where the idea is that the X chromosome sperm swims slower but lasts longer than the Y chromosome girls. So if you conceive on ovulation, it's more likely to be a boy, versus conceiving a few days before ovulation, it's more likely to be a girl. And we have a son, and so we're like, well, let's try for a girl. And that's definitely me pushing that more than Sam. Sam, my husband, is like happy with whatever. Leo, my son, really wants the baby to be a boy. I think one of each is really cool and exciting. And obviously these kids may grow up to like identify in different ways and express themselves however they want to. And I'm absolutely thrilled for them to be 100% themselves. And also, my parents had success with this method with me, so I thought, why not? So it just so happened that the 3 days before ovulation, 4 days before ovulation actually, was my birthday. So this is my birthday baby. And what was so magical about that day is that I had a ceremony. A bunch of my close friends who are local came over, and my doctor, who's a board certified OB, she's also a sound healer, so she came and did a sound healing. It was like my doctor, sound healer, and 7 or 8 of my friends, and we like did this whole altar setup. And I just told everyone, I was like, we're gonna conceive a girl tonight. And so we did like a full-on fertility ceremony. It was also a birthday ceremony, but it was like, I honestly felt like it was such a dream, because I think of the time of priestesses and living in real intentional communal connection and connection to nature. And like, there's such beautiful ceremonies that people have done and still do for sacred union and inviting in new souls and inviting in babies. And I feel like this was just really like had its roots in ancient connection, especially like the way women support each other through fertility experiences and through childbearing. And so I just felt like incredibly blessed, and it was all very intentional. And I made a pomegranate cake, and one of my friends was like, she's like, oh, did you do that on purpose? And I'm like, what do you mean? I made a pomegranate rose cake for my birthday. And I was like, oh, I just love pomegranates and roses. And she was like, oh, well, pomegranates like our fertility booster. And I was like, I had no idea. It just all was so synchronistic. The altar was all like pink and red, and it was really sweet. And so We celebrated my birthday and we conceived a baby. So I felt ovulation and I was tracking with the LH. So I ovulated a few days later and then I actually felt the implantation happen, and baby implanted on the right side of my uterus, which is where baby hangs out now, which is so interesting. And I also felt like, I felt pretty certain that it was happening. I started breaking out in hives. That was my first pregnancy symptom, which is weird because I didn't have that with Leo, and it's actually not a common one, but I started breaking out in rashes over my chest and my belly and my arms and my legs. And I was like, what is going on? But then I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is a symptom that I guess you can have, is from the hormones. And so that was my first pregnancy symptom that started to subside after a couple of weeks. And then we had a trip planned to New York in late January. And I think I found out I was pregnant like right before we went on this trip. And my husband and I were kind of holding our breaths. We were like, just because I was super sick during my last pregnancy, that doesn't mean I'm going to be sick in this pregnancy. Like every pregnancy is different. Every baby is different. So we were really like optimistic and we were like, okay, let's do this trip. Let's go to New York. And that was already so different because my last pregnancy, I got pregnant in December 2020 on the winter solstice. So you know what was happening in the world at that time. There was not going to be any traveling during pregnancy for me. So to go to New York City while pregnant was already like, wow, this pregnancy is so different. Just like the cultural experience of it is so different. But we went to New York and, I started feeling really hungry and also nauseous, like just in the mornings. Like it was classic morning sickness. Like I was just a little nauseous in the mornings and tired and really hungry in the afternoons, like ravenously hungry. And as I found that with the nausea at that point, as long as I like kept munching on things, it was manageable. And what I've heard from a lot of moms who have nausea, like that's kind of as bad as it gets for a good chunk of people. And it's manageable. Like you can still go about your day and do your things. And like, yes, it's annoying to be nauseous, but like you can still go through your life. But by the end of the trip, my nausea was getting more intense. And I was like, you know what? I just don't think I can be here in the city. Like this is getting to be too much for me. So we ended up leaving a day early. And the car ride back, it's like a 7-hour drive, or it was, I think, because we did a detour to visit some friends, it ended up being more like 8 hours. And I ate pickles from a jar the whole car ride back. Like I just had to like slowly eat pickles. Classic pregnancy. And that like got me through that. And then basically from the time we got back, which was like February 1st or 2nd or something, I was like, I'm in bed now. Like I went from like being pretty okay and having nausea to like just bedridden. Like I cannot get out of bed. And from that point on, I really struggled to keep food down. I struggled to keep water down. I struggled to drink water. It was actually like pretty scary because even though I was sick during my pregnancy with Leo, I didn't struggle as much keeping food down. It was more just like extreme nausea. This was extreme nausea and I wasn't keeping things down. And so, I was talking to my doctor pretty consistently, making sure that I wasn't like passing the threshold of dehydration that would be like really scary, but I was definitely dehydrated, and not getting the nourishment that I would really want under normal circumstances or any circumstance. I was like on the brat diet, like just bland food. And I was in bed. And so, it was a bummer because obviously like I wasn't able to be as present as a mom for Leo, though he loved cuddling in bed with me. And I just gave myself as a mom full permission to fully embrace screen time. So we like watched every single Disney movie. Like we went through the whole thing, which was really sweet to revisit all of that. The other thing we did is we watched like videos of Disneyland rides, like POV Disneyland rides. Disneyland, when I was growing up, like I grew up in Southern California, so it really was such a special place. And so I felt this way during my pregnancy with Leo too. Like I just got so homesick, and so that like brought me some comfort, and it was also really fun for Leo. And but we played games and we read, and he really wanted to take care of me, and he really, as I said before, like he really understood it, and that was really sweet. But I hardly saw Sam. Like I couldn't stand to be around other people. Like just the smell of other humans. Sam is not smelly. He smells great, but like it just human beings. Like I couldn't be around other people, except Leo. And even the cats, like I felt overwhelmed by the cats wanting attention from me. You know, I was really like, I need to be isolated. I need to be hibernating. And it was, it's really hard to be in that state. But slowly and surely, you know, the days went on, and I just kept reminding myself, and Sam kept reminding himself, and we kept reminding each other, like, this isn't going to last forever. Very likely I'll feel better in the second trimester. And we trudged through, and in around 12 weeks, I started to feel just a little bit of relief. And like it was a slow transition out of finally being able to eat more of a varied diet, finally being able to like actually be in the kitchen without immediately needing to run to the bathroom, or like finally being able to actually want to drink water again. And we were supposed to go to New Mexico in February or March. We were supposed to go to New Mexico in March, and we ended up postponing our trip several weeks because I just was like, I'm not going to be up to it. And I didn't think it would be safe, you know, for me to travel so dehydrated. Like, that's just too much to ask of my body, and malnourished. Like, and so we postponed the trip. And I was thinking like, well, you know, I think 15 weeks will probably be pretty safe. Like, that's full in the second trimester, 14 weeks. So we went to finally I was feeling better. And we went to New Mexico. I was feeling well enough, I should say. We went to New Mexico, which was really fun. And again, like just a very different experience from my first pregnancy, where like we didn't see anyone or go anywhere. And we didn't leave the state of Maine. But this time we got to go to New Mexico, and I was actually feeling well enough to like really enjoy food. And I love New Mexican food. So that was really fun. And we went and took a tram up a 10,000 foot mountain, and like I was feeling well enough to hike, which was amazing. And so it just felt like, okay, I'm coming out like of the first trimester into the, like New Mexico kind of ushered me into just a reset, because then I think when you're stuck in bed for so long, it can then be really hard to like get the momentum back up to doing things and being active again. And so it was actually kind of nice to have this break. Like, I'm feeling well enough. And by the end of the trip, I was like, okay, like I'm ready to get back into work and get back to doing things. And so we come back, and then it was actually Leo's spring break shortly after we got back. So now spring break has ended, and now I'm finally getting back into work more fully. I did work during the first trimester, but I set up a lot in my business in 2024 with anticipation that I could have a pretty rough first trimester because of what happened with Leo. I knew that it was likely we'd get pregnant quickly. I knew that it was likely I would be really sick. And so with that in mind, I was like, I'm going to really get pieces in place. So what I did to prepare was I set up some really amazing automations. I'm using a program called Deadline Funnel. So those who are applying to my Self-Love Coach certification course are automatically given a deadline to enroll. So I didn't have to, like previously, I was doing classes. Like, you have to sign up for the January class or the July class or whatever. I changed it so that it's rolling admission, but, we have a max capacity. And so those who are applying, each person is automatically assigned a 2-week deadline to make the decision, if they're accepted, about whether or not they're going to enroll. So they apply, they have 2 weeks to say yes or no. And Deadline Funnel is a system that a business coach I hired at the end of last year introduced me to, so that I could be hands-off and essentially have an evergreen launch. So I'm not having to live launch those rounds of enrollment individually, which took something off my plate. And I also automated, and I already had automated email nurture sequences, but I automated email sequences and updated my email sequences because of the new course structure. I had signed a bunch of folks up for the Sacred Method at the end of the year, but I did a lot of work before. The Sacred Method started in January 1st, and I did a bunch of work before it started to make sure that I would have spaciousness if I needed it. But I was still doing live calls. I'm not going to ever especially I do have coaches who co-facilitate the certification course, the Self-Love Coach certification course, but the Sacred Method is new, and it's not something I have trained anybody in co-facilitation. And so it's something that I knew I would need to be fully present for. And I was able to do, live calls. I mean, the amazing thing from working from home is that, I could be reclining. I could have my pillows around me and, with a good enough lighting and a good enough camera, I don't have to wear makeup. I can still look presentable. And so though my energy was really rough, I actually found the distraction of the live calls to be so beneficial, and to just maintain that connection to my soul work and maintain that connection to community was so beneficial. So even though I felt awful, and I would sometimes during the live calls, people would know I was pregnant because I'd be I have to have a hard candy, a sour candy or something. Or I told people I was nauseous. And folks are so understanding. And we made it through. And because I was conserving my energy and really intentional with my energy, I was still able to show up in a way to provide value and support to those in my programs. And I don't think that there was any real lack. It was different, but it wasn't. I don't think anybody was lacking the mentorship and support that they receive under normal circumstances. So I was grateful that I had enough energy to maintain that, and to maintain the promises I made to people about the ways in which I would be supporting them. That's important to me. But I was able to take enough off of my plate. I stopped doing social media. I stopped doing, most of my marketing. I stopped sending out newsletters. I stopped doing my podcast. So anything where there wasn't I just kept the non-negotiables. It's if I made a commitment to somebody, I'm going to follow that through. But other places where there isn't an exchange happening, where I haven't made that commitment, I just let it go. And of course, that's not ideal when you're a business owner. I certainly, even though I've been having people sign up for my programs, and I have people in programs, and my income has been steady, still at 6 figures, even through my maternity leave, or my first trimester leave, I guess, type of maternity leave. I still, it's not ideal as a business owner to totally ghost your marketing, but it's what I needed to do. If I was pouring energy into social media, then I wouldn't have been able to pour energy into my paying clients, and that they're obviously priority. So I was able to do that and pour energy into the programs. And I was grateful that I was able to do that. And it really did serve me as well to still maintain that connection. And so now my vision is, now that I'm feeling better, I'm able to eat regular food again. I am able to eat vegetables again. I still have some nausea. Like I was nauseous this morning, but it was the cute nausea. It was the manageable nausea. Like as long as I keep eating, or if I have, some anti-nausea tea, like I can get through it. If I distract myself, I can get through it. I think that's what a lot of people have. Like I have a lot of friends who are moms, and folks in my life who are moms who have had nausea and sickness in their pregnancies. And we're like, oh yeah, I totally know what you mean. It's so hard. But like, they're still able to like go out and do things or see people. And it's just it's a different level. I think if you haven't had hyperemesis, like you just don't understand the level. Like it really is debilitating to the degree of like having the stomach bug. It really is. And I think it's just hard for people who haven't experienced that to like really understand it. And it's hard for those who do experience it to feel understood, because it is such a spectrum, right? Like there's people who are like, oh yeah, I was so sick, but like they were still drinking like fruit smoothies. Like I couldn't even have a fruit smoothie, or like, oh, I was so sick, but like they're still able to take their kids to school. And like, I wasn't able to do that. Like if I had pushed my body to do normal things, I would have gotten even more sick to a dangerous degree. So I'm just grateful I'm out of the woods, and I hold reverence for the women who have it even worse than I do, because honestly, I can't imagine having this level of sickness and like having to go to a 9-to-5. Like it would have been near impossible. Like I think about the women in places in the world that don't have a choice. Like they have to work. And I can't, it just boggles my mind. And it makes me feel like there just needs to be so much more support for moms. During pregnancy, the first trimester, a lot of people don't even tell other people that they're pregnant. And so it's just isolating and there's no support. Like it's not like maternity leave doesn't cover the first trimester. If you have maternity leave at all, which in the United States, there's no national maternity leave. Like we're one of the only countries with our level of resources that doesn't have maternity leave. Like it's bizarre, to put it lightly. So I feel like if there should be like a first trimester leave, just like there should be an option for paid leave if you have like PMDD or like severe symptoms during periods. Like these are legitimate experiences that people have that just are not widely recognized as being legit. And so I don't know, just makes me sad for other moms, but it makes me grateful that I have the privileges that I have to have taken the space that I was able to take. As hard as it was, I know that I had it a lot easier by virtue of having a level of control over my business. And I still am the primary income in the household. And I set up my business in such a way where I not technically passive, like obviously I was still working, but mostly passive, right? I'm doing a lot of work up front to then be able to take time off on the back end. So now that's I'm going to be doing a lot of that again, right? So I'm going to be hustling over the next 5 months to then be able to take time off again when baby arrives in the fall, which I'm really excited for. And so some of what I'm envisioning isn't necessarily creating new programs, though maybe, but really infusing energy into the wider, more expanded community, right? Because I was just focusing on the community of people enrolled in my programs, but now I get to focus on them and the folks who aren't actively enrolled in my programs, but are still in the community. And I get to do fun things like record podcasts and be active on social media again. And doing more of the expanded outreach and connection, which is really beautiful, which does have an impact on the health and revenue of my business. And so I'm looking forward to doing that. It also has an impact on, like, I love being connected to the expanded community. And I love this work, and I love having the energy to pour more fully into it. And so I'm really excited for what's to come. I'll be reigniting my guided rituals membership and app. I'll be continuing to focus on the Self-Love Coach certification. I'll be continuing to see through those enrolled in the Sacred Method. And if I'm going to launch anything new, it'll likely be a self-paced ritual facilitator certification, which I've run that program several times now. And I've done it live several times. And last time was the last time I did it live. I was like, I think I can make a version of this that folks can do on their own time, which will add more flexibility and is also a benefit for me as a business owner, because that means I get to help folks learn how to bring ritual and ceremony into their lives and to become a leader in their communities offering ritual and ceremony, even if I'm not actively available to do that. Like, I think online courses, in the same way books and podcasts, are so beautiful in that you can receive somebody's wisdom and receive the benefit of their mentorship or their guidance, even if there's not the live in-person connection, because they've created something that's potent enough to transcend space and time. And that's why personal development books can be so life-changing, even if you're not talking to the author or working with the author directly. That's why courses can still be so life-changing, even if they're pre-recorded. I really love that aspect because it's truly transcendent. And I love one-on-one work. I love group work. I love like real-time connection. I would feel really at a loss if I didn't have that. Like, I would really miss it if I didn't have that component of my business. So that's always going to be there. But in seasons where that's not as available, or where we need to pare down, just like I did in my first trimester, or I will again in my maternity leave, I know that I can continue to do my soul's work because people are consuming the content that I've already created. And from a business perspective, that is what passive income is. And that's how I'm able to maintain a 6-figure revenue, even when I'm sick for 7 weeks straight, from creating a human. And what a gift that is for everyone involved, truly. So now, I am feeling better. I do still have some like random symptoms. Like, I have what's called pregnancy rhinitis, which feels like a sinus infection that will never end. And it's definitely getting better. I've been like sleeping with a humidifier and using saline sprays and neti pots and nose strips and like basically treating it as though it were a sinus infection without I can't take antibiotics for it because they wouldn't help anyway. Because all it is a inflammation of the sinuses due to the hormones. And I think what happened was I got 2 colds back to back in early pregnancy. And it's just like my sinuses just stayed inflamed. And there's no infection, but they're just inflamed, especially on mostly on my right side. And it's to the point where like, your nerve endings from your teeth actually go up really close to the sinuses. And so when it's really inflamed, I'll have the sinus pressure, the sinus irritation. I have the congestion and all of that. And I have a toothache. Like, it'll get so intense where like it hurts to chew. And I've talked to my midwife. I've talked to my OB. There's literally nothing to be done. Like, it's just what it is. And so once I just embraced that, like, okay, I'll do like, just the day-to-day basic remedies, which have helped actually. But I've just embraced like, this is part of this journey. It does make it easier to move through it because I'm not like actively fighting it. I'm surrendering to the discomfort. And that's actually a really beautiful preparation for labor. Just like, this is going to suck, or this is going to be painful, or this is going to be uncomfortable, but I'm surrendering to the physical discomfort as just part of the journey. And so there's really a lesson in there that I have held on to. My last birth experience was 60 hours of labor, and it was back labor. So I felt the contractions not just in my uterus, but also as a back spasm. It felt like my entire back was seizing up and I wasn't able to relax into the contractions because of it. And thankfully my acupuncturist, like I continued to have back discomfort, especially my sacroiliac joint, until like last fall. Like it was like years of discomfort. I tried chiropractic care, I did pelvic floor therapy, stretching and yoga and all of the things, strengthening, and nothing worked until acupuncture. It's so amazing to me. Like I've had other things, like I used to have TMJ and I tried acupuncture for that. I tried craniosacral therapy. I tried massage, like nothing worked until a specific chiropractor I went to in New York, like she pressed a button in my back and like it went away. Like it was incredible. It was, the TMJ was coming from some misalignment in my back. So I thought like, oh, the chiropractic care is going to help this back problem this time. But it was actually, this time it was acupuncture. And so it was a beautiful lesson in that like, not every single modality is the cure for every single ailment. But if we can try as many modalities as possible, we'll likely find one that'll be a solution or at least bring some kind of relief. So I'm grateful. My acupuncturist is also a good friend. And so I feel hopeful that I won't have the back stuff come up. Or if I do, I know I have somebody who can support it in a way that my body will respond to. So I'm hopeful I won't have back labor again. Last time I gave birth, my midwives were also pretty young, and I was under this misconception that like because they're young, they're going to be more like cutting edge or a little more like hip to like some of the current stuff. And, I was immersed in some of like the free birth social media spaces, which were like really calling out the issues in the birthing community. And I was under this misconception that like being younger meant being a little more, maybe they'd be more relaxed on some of the licensing, or they'd be more like inclined to newer ideas, like more up to date on things. And that like I share my birth story in another podcast episode, so you can go listen to that if you want to. But this time I needed to do something different because last time did not turn out the way I wanted it to. I think the lack of experience can obviously mean like a lack of knowledge. So the midwives were like knowledgeable, but I was like, this time I want the wisest witchy woman in the woods. Like give me the like oldest midwife I can find who's like been there, knows what she's doing. And so a lot of the midwives I had on a short list, every single one of them was taking a sabbatical this year. I don't know what is happening in Southern Maine right now with the midwifery community, but like so many midwives are on sabbatical or like they've stopped practicing. I know there's been stuff with licensing, like it's a hard job to have, but it was just kind of surprising. Like I was like, all of these people I had in mind, I was like, I guess that they're not available. And one of them is she ran, the midwife that I'm working with, she ran the midwifery school of Maine, like the only one in Maine that actually trained the midwives I hired last time. And she closed the midwifery school. She's closing her birth center. She's retiring. But I sent her like a really heartfelt letter. And I was like, I explained what happened last time. I explained what I was looking for. I explained what I wanted in my birth. And I was like, so many of these midwives are on sabbatical or retiring. Like, I know you're close to retirement, but like, can you make an exception? And so she did, and I'm really grateful. And she's definitely like, she's trained midwives. She's super confident. She knows pretty clearly, like, it seems like she really gets what I envision for my birth. And I'm really excited to have her support. And I'm still seeing my doctor for sound healing, who's a licensed OB. She's not tending to me like an OB. She's tending to me as a sound healer because I'm seeing a midwife for the support and care. But it's just nice. And I still have my acupuncturist. So I have this really beautiful, synergistic collection of care that I've been receiving in this pregnancy that is, yeah, it feels really aligned. My midwife is also an herbalist, and so it's been great to have her herbal remedies as well. And I just feel really blessed to have access to the kind of care that I have this time. I also made the plan. There's 2 hospitals in Portland, and one of them is like really big and a teaching hospital. And my last birth ended up at that hospital. And it was a horrible experience. Like, it was exactly what I wanted to avoid. Like, I wanted a home birth to avoid the unnecessary interventions, to avoid all of the ways that women are disrespected and not listened to during their births. And that's what I ended up experiencing at the hospital, which was to be expected, but not what I wanted. But there's another hospital that has a birth center in it here, and they have like birth pools and they have midwives on staff. So it's a lot more patient-centered and a lot more aligned with physiologic birth and less interventionist. And so they don't accept transfers. That's why I didn't end up transferring into their care, even though that would have been my preference last time. But I went and toured and I talked to them. I explained my situation and I got permission to transfer there if something happens and I do need more support that a hospital would provide. I can transfer to the better one. So I don't think that's going to happen. My midwife doesn't think that's going to happen. Even when I was talking to them, like the midwives at the hospital, they were like, you're going to be fine. So, but it's nice to know, I just having options for the kind of support that is ideal for a person is the most important thing when it comes to birth. And all of the restrictions around birth, I know, are intended for safety, but can backfire when there isn't real proper education for everyone involved, and there's different opinions, and if it's not informed consent and it's not patient-centered, then it can lead to trauma, and birth trauma is just way too common, and so it's just so easily happens because it's obviously such a vulnerable experience. And I think having options is just the most important thing. And so I'm just really grateful for that. And as I get closer to birth, I'm sure that the plan will expand more fully. But for now, I feel really good about it and supported. And over the next several months, my intention is to pour into our community and the self-love lifestyle, to continue to care for my body, to spend a lot of time in the garden, which is like the best preparation for birth, like all of the squatting and all of the patience and the connection to the land. I did a lot of gardening with my last pregnancy too. So I feel really excited. And then to spend a lot of time with my son, since, the dynamic will shift. I'm an only child. And so it's already amazing to me the way Leo talks to the baby, and the baby is so much a part of the family ecosystem and how we all relate to each other. Like Leo will ask, Dada, what's your favorite color? Mama, what's your favorite color? What's baby's favorite color? Like, baby is already included in the dynamic automatically, which is so sweet to see how Leo has just like fully embraced the experience of being a sibling. And yeah, I'll continue to strengthen in relationship to my husband. And then what I want to focus on healing wise and personal development wise is like, I really want to become a bit better about some of the house stuff. Like, it's so easy for me to get overwhelmed with taking care of the house. I always end up prioritizing quality time or business over home care. Like, I'm going to record a podcast or play with my son before I'm going to fold laundry. And I stand by that. Like, that's my value system. And also, in knowing that I'm going to be a mom of 2, I feel like there are some habits that I can refine to make it a bit easier, make it a bit better for all of us to maintain a more calm and peaceful household. So I'm going to be focusing on that and continuing my connection to spirituality and the sacred feminine, especially as I prepare to, go into the birth portal. If you have any questions or you want to connect, you can send me an email at melanie@melaniemonaco.com. You can connect with me on Instagram at MelanieRoseMonaco. If you want to go deeper into setting up your own business that supports your lifestyle, the Self-Love Coach certification course is where it's at. If you want to deepen your relationship to spirituality, you can check out my Guided Rituals app and membership. I'm so excited to be back in connection with you. I would love to hear your questions and anything else you want to share, and I'll see you soon.